Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. We're pretty close to on time, but this is the first time in a little while that all three of us are on the air at the same time when the show has started. That's
Sorry
a
about that.
monumental thing for us, man.
Yeah.
That's a very hard accomplishment. But we are here. I'm Mike Spiderslayer from Comic Book Corner 2.0. Also have next to me here is Kat Comic Uno.
Hello.
And then, of course, we also have Brant Fowler.
What's up, everybody?
Yes, guys. So, yes, we're all here. We're going to talk about some great comics. We're going to talk about the comic books news and some changes in the old creative teams and all kinds of stuff like that. So, we're going to start this week, though. First, before we get into all that big news, we're going to talk about the comics. So, really excited about talking about these comics this week. There were some good ones. And the first thing that we're going to talk about, and I'm sure that's going to get everyone wild up, is going to be the Amazing Spider-Man. But real quick, I just want to say hi to everybody. So just so we get a couple of people on here, before we get into that conversation, Get the Key Comic is on. What's up? Tevia is on. Willie is on. KO is on as well. He even had a timestamp there. He's like, 10:18 ... He was like waiting for us to get on there. So and then,
we're always fashionably late, but we try to be in the 5-minute range.
Yeah, absolutely. We got the infamous Mike Manhattan. Anyone read Clear issue 1? It was
just
pretty
talking
good.
about that.
Yeah, it was funny. I read it. Kat, you read it?
I read it like 3 months ago because I read it digitally, which is why I didn't mark it down.
Yeah.
So I did not mark it down because I was like, I have not read this in a really long time. But it shows if I didn't read issue 2, what I thought that.
I was gonna read it, and I was like, I told them earlier today that I was gonna try to read it if I got time, and I looked through it, and I'm like, man, that's a lot to read. So
that is Scott Snyder for sure.
I read it and I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was different. Interesting story about a world of like these veils, you know what I'm saying, where it like changes the perception of the way the world is because Earth is so shitty. That's basically what it is. And this detective is hired to track down this guy that's selling these veils on the black market. So it's a pretty good story. It wasn't bad at all. I might check out issue 2 for sure.
No, Francis Manifold did the art, and I love his art, which is why I remember I read it the first time. But they're none of the newer Scott Snyder books have done it for me. I think the closest one was Nocterra, and even that I fell off of.
All right, and then we got Ron P joining the show. The Neighborhood Merc. I thought Clear was awesome, especially when it was going when it was a game time decision purchase. Yeah, it was a good choice, right? So another day, another dollar. All right. So welcome guys to the show. We got about almost 20 viewers on there. So we'll get started here. We're going to start off with the comics. Let's talk about the Amazing Spider-Man issue 21. That was probably one of the biggest books of the week due to the fact that we're finally starting to get, some kind of answers when it comes to Mary Jane and Peter Parker, the falling out and whatnot. So I feel that there was mixed camps when it comes to this comic book. There was people that hated this book, and then there was people that actually did like this story. So I personally was one of the people that actually liked the story. That was my personal opinion. I liked how they definitely thought to think of not a traditional villain to get this whole thing started, that it was actually somebody different. And you had to go back to actually find out who this character was, because I didn't remember who this character was. And Zeb Wells actually created this character back in Brand New Day. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And overall, I enjoyed it. I just thought it just kind of got things going here. And just because maybe you didn't like this particular villain doesn't mean he's going to be the villain all the way through. Maybe he just sends them to a different place, right? I could be wrong, but what did you guys think of this issue?
I liked it. I'm hesitantly, like it because I do think, I still have my reservations of it taking 22 issues to get this answer. I'm like, was it that great? No, but I like that it was different. Like you said, I think the villain was, it was interesting that he was an older villain that none of us remembered. And I am curious to see where it's going to go. I thought they did this issue well, and I am anticipating the ride.
Yeah, yeah, basically the same. It's like I didn't expect it to be somebody that harkened back to a previous story. I thought it was just gonna be something new, and then it was gonna be like, okay. But yeah, diving back into something that's a little bit older makes it more interesting to me. So even if I don't remember, which I definitely didn't remember that character at all, yeah, that adds another layer to it, and I appreciate that. And I thought it was a well told story, and I'm definitely intrigued by what caused this whole reality that we have with Peter and MJ now. So so far so good. So we'll see we'll see how the rest of the story goes though.
I mean,
And
I
that
just
art,
feel
man, still don't love the art.
Yeah, I love the art,
kids'
but-
heads
the
were
kids,
horrible.
the kids, yeah, the kids'
Yeah.
heads look like alien
just
I
not
mean-
our style. Yeah.
I
No.
just feel like we get to this point in the story that everyone's been waiting for, and then right away there was a lot of people that just shit on it. And it's like, okay, what do we want? We get upset when Peter's not with MJ, right? Which I totally understand that. And then you want something new. And then when you get something new, you don't like it. And then you say you want to go back to the old. And then you don't like the old and because you want something new. And it's just like, well, what do you want? And I just feel like in a lot of ways that we can't please Spider-Man fans anymore. You know what I'm saying? Is it maybe we're just out to the point that you just outgrown the character and you just seen everything that you've wanted to see from the character at this point? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's got to take time to tell its story. I understand we've been waiting 20 issues, but we're finally here. So I felt like it was very intriguing story. Like I was like, oh, wow, they finally got sent out. You know, we're getting those answers and we're going to get there in a few more issues. So, I mean, I liked it for what it was. I mean, it's not going to give you everything in one single issue, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was laughing at that sister comment.
All right. Yeah, I'll pull back up.
What does it say?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
Peter has two sisters, MJ and the other one.
Kyle,
So,
Mike would never dig at me, and I like this issue, so definitely not a dig on me. I very much enjoyed. I won't say I very much enjoyed the issue, but I think you gotta wait and see how it goes. I genuinely thought it was a good start, except art.
yeah.
That's always going to be the artwork in that story, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it was creative using that character. It just figures that he pulled out a character that he wrote 3 issues of this. You know what I'm saying? And he's just like, I'm gonna bring this guy back. He's been in jail all this time, and it's like, and he's gonna set things moving forward here. So it's funny stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. All right, let's move on and talk about the Adventures of Superman, John Kent, issue 1. So I really liked the setup of this story. I thought it was very interesting. My only problem with this story was with the with Tom Taylor. Even with this being only 6 issues, he made this first issue just kind of stall a little bit because it was like 6 pages. I counted it. It was 6 pages of him dealing with satellites falling from the sky and dealing with the transformation of his powers, where I felt like maybe we could have gotten a little bit more story out of this first issue. But nevertheless, the setup was pretty good because I like the story of Ultraman killing all the different versions of Clark Kent. And you get the heroes from Earth 2 coming to John to have them help him or have him help them try to stop, Ultraman from destroying eventually Clark Kent from this Earth. And that's hard for John because he was stuck in that volcano all those particular years, suffering from PTSD, but he realizes that he's going to have to do the hard thing. And I liked it. I mean, I enjoyed this setup overall. I just wish we didn't. Again, 6 pages was a lot to deal with him just kind of flying through the sky, dealing with those satellites and stuff.
I think compared to how much bloatingness those other issues had in the past run, I was like, 6 pages is nothing because we actually got a strong story here. I thought it got me back on board for this. I thought the way they put Jay into the issue was well done. I enjoyed how the multiverses were well done. How they introduced a lot of characters that actually are already Tom Taylor characters. If we forgot. Tom Taylor did Earth 2 for a long time, and including the Red Tornado, Lois Lane. So I like that for fans of that series, which probably weren't, a lot of people reading this book now. You get that character again, but then they reintroduced the character as like a cliffhanger for newer readers. So, and the art was really good. It has a lot of promise. I think this just has such a better direction than that previous volume. It feels like it kind of has a point A, point B, point C, because it's a mini series. I think it really restrained it in a good way.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Being a mini series, maybe it's going to be a tighter story. Like you, Kat, I didn't mind the 6 pages. I didn't even realize it because of, and I know you dropped off like way early, Mike, with the last run.
Right.
So after reading so much of that, it was like this was a breath of fresh air for me. And I really enjoyed the direction of it too. And I love like tying it back into everything that happened with John, and kind of in a way he's going to get a little redemption for that, I think, when he faces off against Ultraman. So
Right.
I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I like bringing some of those other characters in there. We've been hearing a lot about Balzad in the past few years, and including him in this as well. And obviously the road to injustice is upon us, and seeing those worlds that Tom Taylor has played in crossing over is going to be really interesting. And so far, I thought this was a really strong start, and hopefully it sticks all the way through it, and we get a really nice, concise story out of this.
Yeah, I agree. The only reason why I bring up those 6 pages is because the only thing I read that I noticed that, yes, it's only a 6-issue mini, and I want him to tell a story. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, I don't want it wasted on, pretty artwork. Like, I like the artwork, don't get me wrong, but when it doesn't accomplish anything in the actual story to make it any better, that's when I'm frustrated with that, because I was just like, oh man, I'm like, we could get 6 more pages of like pure story here. And, but again, I'm kind of like you in the same sense, where it was like, wow, the overall setup was really nice. Like, it makes me excited to read what's going to happen going forward with this book, Yeah.
Going back to that comment that you just popped up, Kat.
Which one?
The Zeb Wells one.
Sure.
The D-No name. I love that, though. I love it when a writer can take a character that is just like Z lister and do something interesting with them. I think we've seen that a handful of times where it's gone really well. And if he can actually do something with this character, make us care about that character, I think that's really good, actually. So.
But who's to say, though, at the same time, that just because he's a D-lister can't cause chaos or mayhem for, Peter Parker or Mary Jane, right? A bad guy's a bad guy. Just because you haven't seen him in a comic book all that often doesn't make him any less dangerous, right? Again, look at what that burglar did in that, what he did to his family when he first became Spider-Man. That was just a common thug, and he wound up killing his uncle. That's a big deal, And so again, it doesn't matter. And I said this in my review, just because he's the one that sets this whole thing up, that sends him to a different dimension, doesn't mean that's the end result. He could just be the person that sent them there, and they have to find their way back. And whatever happened to them happened in this dimension. So we don't know what happens to what's his face going forward, But again, that's fine. It's just not. I think it's creative because it's not the traditional guys that we have seen that caused Spider-Man all these problems all these years. So that's that.
We also had a question I saw from Tevia. How do you feel about Dawn of DC Universe changing a lot of stuff? I don't feel like it has yet. I feel like it's just kind of giving new series to people, and giving maybe different focus. But I don't really think it's changed anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we'll talk about later, like some characters going to a different city or relationships ending and that kind of thing. Other than that, I don't think we've seen like major, overhauls or anything like that. It's just like you said, new directions and new creative teams and that kind of thing. So
Right.
Which so far it's been for the good. Like
yeah,
Superman issue 1, we really liked. We been enjoyed John Kent more than the previous volumes. So far, so good.
yeah.
Well, let me go back to that comment here. This
Yeah, go
one
for
here.
it.
And
Oh,
this is
got
fine.
it.
We're fine with this conversation, so I'm
Yeah.
okay with it. He says, but he was not very interesting. If you reread the book, Spidey
Mhm.
knocked him out with one punch, and it was filler run by Will. I did reread it because I honestly did not read those issues. So after I got done reading issue 21, I was kind of like, who is this guy? Like, I don't know who this guy is, right? And so when they showed the editor's note, which I love when they do that, and they need to do that more often, I looked up, I actually have Marvel Unlimited. So I actually looked up 555, 556, and 557. I read all those books. And yeah, he's a very simplistic character, just a mathematician who wants to kind of rule the world based off of Mayan culture and stuff like that. And again, it's not about if he can knock him out in one punch. It's just if the guy gets lucky enough to do something. And that's kind of like what he did,
I did not reread that, but when you said that, now it's kind of ringing a vague bell in my head because I
Oh,
I
really?
know I read it at the time. Yeah,
Right.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
I like when things are connected, honestly. And
yeah,
like you said,
absolutely.
you can reinvent a character. You can you can do different things. I'm trying to think of a character that was introduced that we didn't love, but then as it went along, we enjoyed
Yeah,
the character a lot. Because that does happen a lot where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know about this character. And then maybe someone else takes it, or again, years later down the line, you're like, oh, actually, you could have done this with the character. I don't think there's any bad characters ever. I think even if Alpha returned and there's a good writer, or not that Dan Slott's a bad writer, but if another writer has a different direction, Alpha could be even an interesting character.
Yeah.
yeah. I know there's some that my mind is going blank right now, but I know like recently, like in the past few months, we talked about a character just like that was just like a nobody that somebody took and did something special with, and I can't for the life of me remember who it is now. But
We talk a lot about comics, so
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I read that. It was, if you remember, Brant, that old story was Spider-Man also teamed up with Wolverine in that story also.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
in those few issues.
We
But
also
again,
have
I give credit to Zeb Wells for digging in that well and pulling out a character that
Yeah.
he wrote about back in 2008. Because I'm sure he was thinking no one is going to expect this guy to create this story or the beginning of this story, for them,
Yeah.
for the beginning of their end. So I don't know. I'll say this one more time when it comes to Spider-Man was I did like in the beginning of the story how light it was before things started getting dark. Like, I'm a dad. I related to that story on how Mary Jane was trying to get her kids out the door to get to the park, and they were giving her so much hard time, and she's like, "Oh my God, we're never gonna get out of here." Like, I
Yeah.
found that hysterical, before things got going there.
We
All
also
right.
have a couple more comments.
Yeah, go
before we
ahead.
move on to the next thing. Tevye said, personally, for me, I'm disappointed Jeremy Adams being kicked off the Flash. I like that he's ending on a high. I'm sure he wasn't kicked off. I'm sure he literally made the
Yeah,
choice
yeah,
of like, I wrote a lot of Flash. But that's how when good runs die, is when you have too much of that run. So I'm happy he's ending it on a high.
And we'll talk about that more too when we get to the creative stuff, the
Right.
creative teams on that too.
For
When it
sure.
comes to the
And
Flash.
last question I see is infamous Mike Manhattan. Have you seen Scream 6? Of course I've seen Scream 6. It's so good. Actually, tonight I had an opportunity to see it again. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to rest because I just traveled all weekend. So I was like, no, I'm just going to relax. But it was really good. And I would have seen it a second time. But it's my second favorite Scream. So that says something. But let's get into number 5.
All right. Yeah. Number 5. What do you got, Kat, for your number 5?
Mine's Flash, so we're kind of already talking about it. I've been enjoying this event. Is it a mind-blowing event? No, but sometimes it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it just has to be character-driven and fun, and I feel like that's what this is. There's some good character moments with Irie, especially, and good action, good story. So pretty solid book.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed this whole story, so it's like I know I'm gonna enjoy Flash, so it's the last book I read. But I like Irie a lot. That the focus was there. You know, some sad stuff in this issue, but I also like the spotlight on Jay Garrick, like here and there, and then of course ending strong with him as well.
Oh
Yeah.
man, so Frank's got some inside info here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the $5. I had lunch with Jeremy Adams and he was replaced. It wasn't his choice. Damn. What can you do
Wow.
on that one then? That's crazy. And he's working on another book though, right? What book is he working on?
He's gonna be doing Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they were just like, you can't do two. I don't know. I'm
not
curious
gonna
about
lie
the story.
though.
Mhm.
I'm excited. I'm excited for him to write
Yeah,
Green
you're a big
Lantern,
Green Lantern fan,
because if he did that with the Flash, I'm hoping he can do that with Green Lantern.
yeah.
Well, thanks, Frank, for the super chat. That's awesome. I like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
little
Thank you so much.
inside stuff there too,
Yeah,
man. That's great
thanks for
stuff.
that. Did not know that for
Yeah.
sure. So.
But I'm there with you, Brant, when it comes to the Flash. I really enjoyed this issue. I liked Irie. I like she was like tossing like her brother around, like
Yeah.
right, like
That's
connected him to the. It's like he's a statue or something, and she was like using him as like a throwing object.
Like a paddle ball.
So funny, man. Jay Garrick was awesome too in this.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna experiment him on it, and he has a loose tooth, and he sits there and he jiggles it around so much in his mouth that it's so fast that he kills the alien. Like that's insane, man.
Yeah.
Just a good book. I love all the family dynamic. You know what this reminds me of? Like, in a way, it reminds me of like Invincible in a way, because there was so much grounded.
Not as many twists and turns, but
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But the
know,
family
and that's
aspect
what I
of it,
like
yeah.
about it. I'm going to have to reread these issues or buy a previous trade when Jeremy Adams first started, or whenever his whole run comes out. I'm definitely excited about that.
I liked how Barry pointed out that Wally always called them the Flash family, and so we finally got that word into the canon there, or that term, and kind of leaning into that whole. I love leaning into the whole Flash family for this event. So.
Absolutely. All right, and Kat, what was your number 5? What'd you say?
That was my number 5. Was Flash.
Flash.
Yeah.
So it's Brant. What is Brant's then?
I'll go with Mary Jane and Black Cat, number 4.
Oh, that went down.
Yeah, not the strongest issue of it. Obviously it was just a bunch of fighting, but the strongest part for me was the stuff between MJ and Black Cat, of course, and kind of dealing with the whole unspoken thing that she's got a thing for Peter now, and that of course the inner monologue with Black Cat. I thought that was the best part of the issue, but other than that, they were just trying to get away from that monster, right? So
You saw Mary Jane power up in this issue.
Yeah, that was nice.
You finally got to see what the 777s do.
Yeah,
and she's like super badass, man, when she transforms. I was like, I don't know if I want to touch her, because at first she looked really like menacing, like almost something like a Dark Phoenix type of thing.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of that. Just different coloring. Yeah.
I like this issue. I felt like it's kind of how you do an action issue.
Yeah.
Again, it is very actiony, but there's a lot of character development weaved throughout. Like you're saying, It's really the conversation about Peter. But really what I think this book does expertly is that it really isn't about Peter. It really is about their friendship from a core. Like even though like they're kind of fighting about him, it's even Mary Jane's like, I don't give a shit what you care about Peter. It's like I care about our friendship. I really enjoyed that, and I just thought this is just an expertly written book. Honestly, it's so good. I wish other Spider books could be like this, because it's just so strong.
Yeah, I know, I completely agree, and I still want Jed McKay to write amazing, but that's me.
I agree.
All right, and then my number 5 was Batman and the Joker, the Deadly Duo. For me, that book continues to shine. It's this one though was a little bit like over dialogue heavy. Like there was a lot that went into this issue, but I still found it very enjoyable. The artwork is awesome. There was not as much action in this issue as where this was kind of a little bit more of a history lesson of something that went on in the past. where the last issue was just like an action adventure reminded you of Speed, the movie Speed. You know what I'm saying? Like a high speed train and everything else, but still really good issue. I guess we're getting close to wrapping this thing up. We got to see Harley and Joker reunite again. But Silvestri's artwork, man, god dang, he draws phenomenal. Like, I forgot how well he draws when haven't seen an artist do work in a while, and then he pulls out this book, and I'm like, man, this is really good Batman stuff right here.
Yeah, he's a very good artist.
Yep. So that was my number 5. So let's move on and let's talk about Batman issue 133. This continuation of Batman being in an alternate universe, dealing with different versions of all these characters. We get to see this big battle between him and Harvey Dent of this world, where it's like a Bane. And then we've gotten to see Alfred of this world, which I said from the very beginning when I saw him, Alfred's going to come back to the main universe with this Batman. And that's how we're going to get Alfred back. That's my prediction here.
It's very
I
possible.
continue to like the backup story more than I like the
Totally makes
actual
sense,
story.
though. I love how it's connected.
Yeah,
I do.
backup
I
story,
like
yeah.
Tim's story. I enjoy that. I'm like, I kind of wish that was the main story because I don't think the
fine. At
Elseworld
least
is
the key-
as interesting.
Yeah, at least it connects, though, and it makes the price of the comic worth it.
Yeah,
agree with
that
that.
they're
I
connected.
agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I agree with you, Kat. I like the backup story better. I think it's the stronger story. At first I didn't love the Elseworld thing, but it's kind of grown on me. And like, seeing him interact with Catwoman is nothing new, but and just like the little moments of, when he grabs her arm and she's like, "Don't touch me," and that kind of stuff. And just like there's still that thing for him there, which I like that. And the Alfred thing is interesting. If he does bring him back, because both of them have lost the other in their respective worlds, that could be really interesting. But that backup story is very good.
That would be cool. I think with this Elseworld story, the reason why I'm like, the last issue I liked it more because this one is just like, man, I've seen this before. Like, I've seen this story before, and it's just not as interesting. Mike said he's going to be back, so we'll just go into the next issue, which is X-23. So, Brant, what did you think of X-23? Was that everything you expected?
I was just a little disappointed by that.
Same.
Yeah, it's like it was a well written. I mean, it was fine. It was a fine issue, right? But it wasn't like, oh my god, this is X-23. It was just okay, and there's not a whole lot to say about it. It's like it's another one of the throwback books. It's set back in a time where X-23 was really popular and stuff, and I like that. I like the setting and everything, but the story itself was just, I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot to latch onto for me.
That was my biggest problem. I think, like you said, if I never read X-23 before, this would be a great book. It's like, oh, I never knew about her past. Like, I never knew this about her. And I feel like that's every Marvel miniseries these days. It's like nostalgia or just like written for new readers, but not in a way that it's also for old readers, but also not in a way where I think new readers be like, I love X-23. Because it's just kind of there. And again, nothing against a creative team. It's just like, I didn't really... It just was kind of there. Like, I've seen this story before. I don't think there was like a big emotional beat. Will I read the next issue? Probably, but also I'm already forgetting what happened in this issue. Because again, it's just like a grand total of the things in her past, and that's it.
That's the thing. I was like, I'm sitting here talking about it. I'm like, okay, what did actually happen? And I could not think of what actually happened. It was one of the first books I read too. So, because I was excited about it. But yeah, it's like there was not that one major thing. It was like some the woman that was in, like, created or whatever sent somebody after her to take her out. That's what happened. So it was just like a standard kind of filler arc kind of thing, and I was
standard
expecting
Laura story.
More. Yeah, and I was expecting a little more like this hidden thing from her past that impacts her present, and that's kind of what I was looking for. Maybe I expected too much. So.
But I feel like when you get a miniseries, like, again, oranges and apples at this point, but if you get a miniseries from Marvel, from DC right now, John Kent, it's a story that has to do with, what's currently going on. A lot of the miniseries from Marvel right now really doesn't have to do with the current continuity of Marvel, and,
Yeah.
or even like a character that could. And we've been saying, especially the female characters, we've been talking about this a lot. But like Miss Marvel had a couple of miniseries, and they didn't really do anything. It was just like, okay, she has a TV show. I guess we need this. Spider-Gwen, it's a fine book, but it's not actually doing anything for the character. And same thing for X-23. If you never read this, there's no continuity, and but there's also just no plot either. It's just like it's very surface level, all these miniseries.
Yeah, even Exterminators, which we all really enjoyed,
Yeah.
it was really great art, and it told a fun story, but it really had nothing to do with anything. And it didn't, it didn't leave us with anything except for, okay, these women are friends, and they might hang out from time to time. That's about it.
The one thing I'll at least give that book is that at least it was a different team and different dynamics we'd never seen before. And I think that's why I enjoyed it more. But again, I've seen X-23 before I've read Spider-Gwen. So Mike, what we were talking about was X-23, and that we were just a bit disappointed in a couple of these Marvel miniseries at this point have been doing no plot. We have Miss Marvel, Spider-Gwen. It's just like it's Silk. All these characters, female characters especially, get miniseries just for the sake of like saying, look, we have female characters in our lineup without actually doing anything with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my opinion on this book was that it was for new readers. Like I enjoyed it. I don't think it was the best thing in the world, but I did enjoy it. And I feel like not everything is going to be made for people like us, because we've been reading comics for absolutely forever. So we got to understand that. And I think sometimes we forget that not everything is going to be made for us. And in the only way to get people to get into comics is to introduce or reintroduce these characters in a way to readers that have never read the character before. So in a way, they had to rehash like who Laura is, what her powers were, what she was in the past, and things like that. And the only difference that I got out of it was like they introduced a character that we never met before. And maybe they'll get more in depth of a story in the next issue. That's the only thing I can think of.
I agree that you need to retell stories for people that have never read things before. But I think Superman's a really good example of that. Superman issue 1, where if you've never read a Superman comic, the most recent one,
right,
you will jump in and completely understand what's going on. They explain everything you need to know. This, I felt like, it doesn't even help the older reader or the newer reader, because it's like, are they making Laura interesting? Because if I read this book and I never read a comic before, I wouldn't say I was an X-23 fan. I was just like, oh, cool, you spit out information to me. Why should I be interested in her?
I would also be like, oh, she looks kind of like Wolverine. Is she like Wolverine? What's her title, Wolverine? Because I don't think they really delved into that too much in this. So it's like it didn't do enough for either audience, I think. So that was my problem with it. But
I think it's time.
Obviously, don't mind having that. I don't mind having a new reader-friendly book by any means.
Right. I mean, maybe they'll explain more as time goes along. Maybe they'll do flashbacks or whatever it is. I mean, who knows? But you make a good point with the Superman thing. They showed you who Superman really is and what he's about, and here with Laura, they did kind of miss that a little bit. They introduced a character that was around in the past, and they told you what her powers were and who her mentor was, things like that. But I don't know. I did like the MMA guy. I liked him. I thought he was kind of cool. I liked his name. I liked the name Haymaker. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
he reminded me a little bit of Jason Todd. A little bit when he had the whole crowbar thing going.
Yeah,
that's what he reminded me
visually, for sure. Yeah. I did appreciate like the introspection. There was that flashback. I'm remembering this now. There was the flashbacks to different points in Laura's life at the beginning, which I did like that, because her very first introduction was was it NYX? Is that what the series was?
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. So.
Nice little good book.
There. Yeah,
much forgotten book from Marvel. So.
Yeah, I remember it distinctly, because at the time it was like a lot of young people were going around with the pacifiers, and they used that in some of the cover art. I remember that distinctly. Yeah.
Oh my god, I do
Yeah.
remember that in the cover art, and also it was pre Runaways, I believe. So it was like Runaways before Runaways, which was interesting.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So let's see. We're gonna go forward and move on to number 4. So, Kat, what was your number 4?
Mine was actually Bloodline Daughter of Blade issue 2. I thought this was a better issue than issue 1, and it kind of goes back to the thing we've been talking about with new characters, where especially at DC, where they like introduce these new characters and they don't really do much with them. And I think this did a really good job at kind of giving her own voice, but also kind of keeping it exciting. We already have an antagonist for her. Like a vampire hunter type character goes to school with her, and then Blade shows up in the end. You're like, oh, cool. You get to the point too. That's awesome. I'm not saying it's my favorite book ever, but I'm like, all right, I feel like this has a promising direction. And it's something we've been looking for a while. A new character that kind of has enough room to breathe.
Mm-hmm. I decided to pass on the second issue. I was going to get it. I actually had it in my hand, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to forget about it.
The art's still not strong. I think that's my
Right.
biggest nitpick, is that the art is not great.
I knew that person that she came across obviously was either going to be a vampire or another vampire hunter, something like
Right.
that. Obviously, it's very predictable in that aspect. And then, do you get Blade? You get Blade in this issue?
You
or
do
no?
in the end
You
of the
do, huh?
issue.
By the end of the issue, just like last time too. He saw.
Yeah, no,
for
he
one
actually,
page.
but he like seriously shows up though. He's like,
Does he?
oh, you. So it definitely seems like next issue he'll be a bigger part of the book.
Brand,
Which
did you read
he's
this
even in
one
the
or
cover.
no?
No, I didn't read the first issue.
Oh, you didn't read the first
I
one.
don't think
okay.
I might have gotten it after it came out. I don't remember if I even got it yet or if it's still on its way. DCBS, man.
All right. So, what was yours? Brand?
Batman. So we already
Batman?
talked about it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, and then mine was Superman. So,
Yes.
yep. Okay. So we talked about the Flash.
Yep.
And so we're gonna move on to Fantastic Four, issue 5. So yeah, I mean, this time we get the what are they? The Salem 7 or
Salem 7, yeah.
Yeah. So they do battle against Reed and everybody else, and they put them in like this mirror dimension, and somehow it's like their insides are messed up to the point where they can't digest food. And it's like if they don't fix it, they're eventually going to starve themselves. It was just weird, and
it was very weird. Yeah,
but it does look like it's going to lead into an overall story going forward, because if you looked at that last panel, whatever goo is on the floor, it looks like it's going to affect this bird, and it looks like it's going to be like kind of like this apocalyptic thing that's going to go on.
Yeah, it's going to destroy the entire food chain.
Yeah. So
this was interesting.
But no, so listen, I think I'm gonna pick up the next issue because of that.
Oh no, I'm definitely not picking the next issue because of this one.
I think it's because it's actually gonna lead into the overall story now.
Go on.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, Kat.
No, they stopped me when they had to run to the bathroom. I was like, no thanks, I don't need this. I get it from a creative standpoint. Like I'm also Josh, and where it's like, all right, cool, they're doing something different with like the powers and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't need that. It's just like it was such a weird bit, and there was nothing else that really attracted me to the book. I honestly just got this issue because I didn't have a big pull list, so I was like, what? And it was in my pull list, so I was like, whatever, I'll just get it. And then the art's fine, but I just don't love this story. And I don't love the characterization, honestly. There's nobody like that stands out. And even a post-apocalyptic story, I don't know if does enough for me.
This actually turned things around for me.
So interesting.
When I first read the bathroom thing, I was the same way. I was like, what? I don't really love that. But the explanation as their entire DNA got mirrored, I thought was really interesting. And I like diving into, especially with Reed being at the center of it, diving into the scientific explanation of it. Made it really interesting to me. Very weird. I agree. It was bizarre, but I still liked it. And I don't know. I really do like the art. I thought the art was really nice. And the fact that it is a larger story now, I'm at least going to hang on to it for a little bit. It, like I said, it turned me around, made it interesting for me.
I like there was so much of nothing going on in the issue at the same time, and then
Yeah.
it literally was, Brant, that last panel where I was
Mhm.
just like, that could be interesting, and that's where this issue leads into the much bigger plot. So for the
Right.
first time in this book, I felt like we were going somewhere with it, like it's
Exactly.
leading
Yeah.
someplace. So that's where, now that I had time to digest the issue, no pun intended, I felt like, okay, I'm gonna try to continue it because I like the artwork in this book. I think the
Art is
characters are
good. Yeah.
great
Yeah.
in this book, and the colors are great.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit too much dialogue in the book, but that's Reed. Like, Reed always talks a
Right.
lot. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be an interesting story.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about Fantastic Four. We'll dive into number 3. This time I'll start with you, Brant, on that number 3 spot.
It actually was Fantastic Four.
Okay. What about you, Kat?
Mine was Spider-Man. We already talked about it.
Yeah. My number 3 was also Spider-Man. So seemed to like Spider-Man this week. At least we agreed on that, right?
Yeah, this is definitely the week that we all have different opinions, which I like. I feel like those are always I won't say the better weeks, but it's always fun because I feel like we always agree a lot too because we have similar tastes in comics. So it's fun when there's that like 1 or 2 books where you're like, wait, actually I have the complete opposite feeling about that.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, Amazing Spider-Man is not my top 5. So
there you go. Complete opposite feeling.
All right. So now we're going to move on and we'll talk about Rogue Sun issue 11. Again, this is a very much of things building in this series, and we get to see Dylan as he is dealing with the stuff as being a hero, but not being there for his friends. So that goes back to the thing of him trying to balance like superhero life and everyday life, going back to like Spider-Man days, when he first becoming a hero. But he was dealing in that alternate dimension in the Queen Raven or the Raven Queen or whatever it is, trying to get that Phoenix feather and whatnot. I like this story. I really do. And what I do like about it also, again, it does keep you engaged. Whenever you are in that different dimension, it's like you're in that Raven's dimension there. It's like the book is like a calendar. And then when you're back in regular world and regular Earth, it's just a regular comic book. I like how they do that. That's creative to me.
Yeah.
But overall, I think the characters are really good in there. And now his friends are in danger. And could this be like one of the first times that, as him being a hero, is he going to lose some friends because he wasn't there to help him?
Yeah, it already sounds like his ex is kind of done with him, because the way she put it, you never know which version of him you're going to get. And so I thought those moments and like the way his friends were talking about him and thinking about him and moving on, in spite of him, I thought it was I thought that was strong. I didn't love him having to fight the bird guy and all that stuff. But it's that's standard comic book stuff,
right?
So
they had to throw in some action in that book.
Yeah, but I also like the stuff with the dad of the villain, kind of making a deal and stuff like that. So there's small moments in this book I really appreciate, and this just fell out of my top 5. So, but this book has always been kind of it's more of a slow burn book, and it's the one like Massiverse book that's taken me a while to get really into, and I'm waiting for it to be like that one issue that's just like, okay, now it's really got me. So
yeah, I liked when the mom was revealed as a villain. I think that was when I was like, whoa, that's really cool. But I do think it's slowed down since then. I I kind of like, the opposite. I like but not the hero stuff as much. I like the build up to the prom because I'm always a sucker for, a good double life type situation.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, next issue I think is going to be better for me personally and for my likes because I'm excited to see the worlds collide. And this was kind of building towards that. So this issue didn't quite do it for me, but I think it obviously is a necessary issue to get to hopefully some good stuff in the next one.
I mean, when I talk about him losing friends, I'm talking about like people dying. Like,
for sure, which definitely might happen, and that's something that's really cool about these Image books and the Massiverse in general is that you can do big things because it's your superhero book.
Yeah,
there is no editorial to tell you what to do. So
so looking forward to this. This didn't fall in my top 5, but kind of like the same reasons like Brant mentioned. Like, it took a lot to get to where we needed to get to with this, story and this issue, and then also like again the doorman thing, like that was just a drawn out battle that you kind of knew he was going to win. It was like, what I'm saying? It was very predictable, but it was almost necessary to kind of balance out the issue a little bit since there was so much talking or dialogue in there. So a lot of talking heads in this issue. All right. So that was Rogue's Son. So now we'll dive into number 2. And Kat, I'll start with you.
Mine was Giant. We already talked about it.
Which was it?
John Kent.
Okay. That was actually my number 2 as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Mine was Mary Jane and Black Cat. There we go. All right. So with that being said, there's no more other books to talk about except our number 1s. So Brant, what was your number 1?
The Flash. So we already talked about it. Yeah.
That was my number 1 also.
Nice.
And mine was Mary Jane. So we already talked about it.
That's it.
All right.
That's sweet. Man, we went through those books quick.
Yeah, we did.
We did, but there is a lot of news. So before we jump into that, we have some news of our own. So we're going to tease that next week we do have a pretty big announcement about the show. So please, if you guys want to check that out live, it's really, really fun announcement that Brant's been putting a lot of work into. So we're really, really excited to talk about it and get you guys to see it. So it's been a plan for a while that we'd be doing it, but now it's finally in fruition. Other stuff, there's always Kickstarters coming up. So Brant, you have a Kickstarter coming up if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, and I will share the screen as soon as I can find it. Can never find the right screen. I've got the relaunch for In the Land of the Dragon issue 1 through 2 coming up in a couple of weeks. So go check out the page. You can either search for it or go to lastimberpress.com/dragon, and that'll take you there and sign up to get notified when we launch. And so far our follower count's doing pretty well. So hopefully we'll make it this time. So.
And we have a new Kickstarter coming up. And if you guys like superheroes, I know I haven't done a superhero comic in a long time, but this was my my baby, my first comic. Like Father, Like Daughter, it's about a high school girl. Father leaves her to become a full-time superhero, and then everyone in the world loves him except for her. We're on issue 8 of this book now, and it's the grand finale of the book. There's a lot of twists and turns to come. I will say, hint, hint, it's not actually the end of their story, but it is the end of this version of Like Father, Like Daughter. So if you guys want the first full arc, the first origin story of Casey, definitely go check it out. It's all what I love about superheroes put into one, all the tropes that I enjoy. So if you like things like Radiant Black or Invincible, I think you'll really enjoy this one. So follow the page. We are going live at the end of the month, so that'll be really fun. Now I'm going to send a link to that, and then we will get started with some news. There's only one news piece for media, I think. So that is Amazon looks like it's going to pick up that new Batman the Anime series styled series. So I just thought it was interesting that Amazon's picking it up because they have Invincible, The Boys. It just seems like they're doing so many interesting stuff with comic book properties and actually doing it well. So,
and they're like, why
cool.
not get Batman on top of it?
Why not get a show that's definitely going to succeed?
Right.
So,
and we're not going to go under. So, yeah.
So let's actually do this. And also, actually, Tevi has some comments about Like Fall Like Daughter. I'm very excited for the finale of the story, especially with the mother being a spy. Thank you. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you're excited. It's been a long time coming, this story. So looking forward to everyone reading it.
You
Again,
know,
links
Kat, you talk
description.
about like HBO Max, right? Man,
Mhm.
how lucky is The Last of Us though to pop up in there to help their viewership? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
They needed
that
it.
I think I heard, like, I still have the second to last episode and the finale to watch, and I think what I heard is they had 8 million people watch the finale.
I'm not
Wow.
surprised. It's a
Yeah.
very successful show. It's
Yeah.
again, HBO needed it because they were like, because HBO is just Warner Brothers, and we know that Warner Brothers is not doing great. So I hope it helped them out. That way we could get even more content.
Are you caught up, Brant, or no?
I forget where we're at. It's either 4 or 5. Was the
Oh,
last one
okay.
we watched.
You're not
So,
horribly behind.
yeah, I know we at least watched 4. I can't remember if we watched 5 or not.
Gotcha.
It's like 8 episodes, right? Or even less?
8, 9.
9.
9.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching the pilot for my other podcast, the Legendary Ladies. If you guys want to check it out, I'll give you guys a link. But we're going to do like a pilot pod for Last of Us, so I'll definitely watch the pilot, which is just a matter of time, just trying to find time to watch it. But we will.
It's a
end
good
up doing
series,
that.
Kat. You
It
would
is a
like
good
it. The
series,
first
yeah.
episode's a little slow.
No, I heard
the-
once you get
well,
to the third.
Yeah, even the second even the second. By the time you get to the end of the second, it's really good.
Things
At that
start
point.
speeding up at the maybe like the last third or fourth of the pilot, and then it takes off from there.
Yeah, it's good. Then you start getting hooked up with the know
Yeah.
who the main characters are and everything else.
But that, like, the first half hour of the pilot's really emotional. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to catch up when I do. I just finished White Lotus, so that was my big show. Now Ted Lasso is coming back, so I'll probably be catching up with that.
Lisa will be happy.
Does she like it?
Yeah, she loves Ted Lasso.
Yeah, it's a good show. It's fun. Also short, which is always nice. I love my short shows. But let's get into some new comic book news here. So Night Terrors will be introduced for Free Comic Book Day, which, I think we kind of saw coming because that's kind of their big event that's coming up. And we don't really know much about it, except the one villain that's showing up.
Yeah, I like that. I like when, Free Comic Book Day, especially from the big two, can release a comic that has to do with an event that's actually coming out that
Right.
means something, because then it gets you excited to go. Like, I'm not
Exactly.
saying that I wouldn't go anyway, but it's like, oh man, Free Comic Book Day, they got that new event comic coming out and it's free. Like, you can't
Yeah.
beat that, right? And that
Right.
gets you excited.
No, I agree. Absolutely.
For sure. Going on to the next thing, which is Hawkgirl gets her own series, which I don't remember the last time we got a Hawkgirl series. I'll definitely check it out because she's one of those
Is there
characters.
other Hawkgirl series? Like,
Yeah,
what do
there
you-
is.
Is there?
There's
From a long time ago.
Yeah, like early 2000s. Like she had a series that lasted like 70 issues, which is
Really?
crazy to think.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Kendra one, not like Shiera.
Yeah.
It wasn't her.
Pretty
It was
New
the other
52,
Hawkgirl.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, pre-New 52.
Yeah.
I feel like Jeff Johns wrote it. I don't remember who wrote
Maybe.
it, but it was definitely
I
like a
don't
bigger
remember either.
writer that wrote it. That was the reason why it stayed as many issues as it was. But which Hawkgirl is it? I think it's Shira.
It's Kendra. This
Oh,
new
is it
one.
Kendra?
Yeah, it is.
I'd
Kendra.
rather Kendra. I think she's more interesting as a character because I believe, if I remember correctly, it's been a very long time. She's also like someone that was human and then like found out about her origins, and I feel like that's a little bit more relatable than just saying, "Oh, I'm this person from 3,000 years ago. I have wings."
Yeah.
But I check it out. I feel like that's the type of character I want to see more from DC. This like a character we haven't seen forever, where Mike didn't even know she had an ongoing series.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
like, do you think in this day and age though, like, can she what's up, Louie? You think like she could hold her own series? Like, out of all the characters in the DC universe, were you screaming for the Hawkgirl series?
I think people that love the Justice League animated series,
Exactly.
it's like
I
the
can
Jon Stewart situation.
I can understand that.
Who is writing it? Let me see who's writing this series because that will also
And-
be like a determinant.
I also like that she's going to Metropolis, so it's like the Justice League breaks up and she goes to Metropolis, and that's where the story takes place. So you're putting her in a completely different environment too,
Mhm.
so that it can lead to some interesting story.
You know, you talk about Justice League Unlimited. Would you
Mhm.
guys like to see that in a comic book? I mean, we've had like the Batman animated series recently come out.
Yeah,
Would you want to see that
if
Justice
it
League
was better than
Unlimited in comic book form?
that.
I mean, I'd check it out.
Yeah, I'd check it out. That would be something if they could do it justice. No pun intended.
We've been doing that a lot today.
I know, right? It could be
Let's
fun. Yeah, go ahead.
no, go on, go on. I was
No,
gonna
that's
move on
it.
to the next thing, so you're
Yeah,
good.
that's fine.
So the other thing is, I don't want to talk about the creative teams just yet. Let's see. Check Please creator to work on Big Barda. The only reason I want to talk about this is because Check Please, it's a webcomic, not webtoon. And it's the most successful Kickstarter in comics ever. Like every single one has made like millions of dollars. So I just think it's cool that they're getting like something that's been very successful in comics, but such a different side of comics, and then bringing them to traditional comics in the graphic novel space. I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
So that was cool. You guys want to talk about the new Loki miniseries because season 2 is coming out. New Loki mini. They said it's a mini series, so if they at least now we know it's not something that just got canceled.
Yeah. I don't think they would do Loki as a ongoing, would they?
No.
I don't
No,
think
I-
it gets
Did
sustain
they
an
try?
ongoing.
Did
Did
they
they
try
try?
once? I feel like they tried once, but it,
Or maybe I don't know. But
The only thing that I would say about this Loki series, not that I would read it. I'm not a big Loki guy. I mean, I've watched the Disney Plus show, which I thought was good, but I think it's smart that they're releasing a comic, so you can get hyped for the show, or it's going to be around the same time as the show,
yeah.
which I feel like they need to do that more with the, Marvel movies in general, just so you can get people reading the comics and enjoying the shows at the same time. So that's
Right.
basically why I, checked off this news piece, basically.
Yeah. And like the last couple of Loki series have been kind of interesting at least. So hopefully this one will be good too. I looked up Hot Girl. It was like 2007, 2008, and it was like 66 issues. So yeah, really.
and how
close
many?
to
Who
set.
wrote it?
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna look for.
Because that's like I'm so curious. Like, how did it last 60 something issues? Because like it's a
Yeah.
hot girl, but I think that like created the Kendra character, which obviously has become popular for the. She was even in a TV show, so
Right.
that makes sense. So another thing that happened, and we'll talk more about like the broader or the more detailed Dawn of DC, but we're going to talk about the broader Dawn of DC timeline. They revealed more of it, and it looks like the only thing we really got from this more reveal is that Monkey King, or not Monkey King, yeah, I think his name is Monkey King,
Oh.
is going to have a part
Monkey
in
Prince.
this now. Monkey Prince, there you
Monkey
go.
Prince, yeah.
He kind of has like a little smudge in the timeline now.
Real quick before we get into that, it was James Robinson and David Goyer. So yeah. So
Okay.
that's
So
a
there you
big
go.
name. Yeah.
So what's thoughts on Monkey Prince here? I mean, it seems like people are. That was one of the comments we got last time when we were like, "Oh, I don't know anything about Monkey Prince," and everyone's like, "I love Monkey Prince." So I guess we're missing something on that one.
I got no thoughts on Monkey Prince.
I'm not reading Monkey Prince. That's my deal. I never read him when he first came out. I had no interest in him. When it comes to the DC timeline, listen, we'll get more stuff. I guess by the end of the year we'll get Justice League back and stuff like that. But I don't know. This is a weird like soft reboot or whatever it is that they're doing. It is kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish they did something a little. I feel like they needed to do something a little bit different to get more people excited about certain things, in my opinion.
It is interesting. Like speaking of Hot Girl, the books that they are launching with like Stillworks and stuff like that. It's interesting the choices that they're making, and hopefully they're good, and hopefully they do something different with these characters, and we can latch onto that. Like the voice of Still is writing that book, so We've been seeing that a lot lately, like characters that do voice acting or play the characters and writing the characters in the book.
And
so.
in some regards, I think that works. Like I think Nicole Main's
Nice.
doing Dreamer worked
Yeah, that
really
really
well
does
because
work,
she like
yeah.
created the character. She it was new. It was a new character. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
and it's like trans representation. And like I thought
Right.
that was a really good move. But now it's getting to a point where it's like, all right, do we need every like the Shazam book? I know you enjoyed it a little bit more, but I'm like, do
Yeah.
we need every actor to write a comic now? I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, but I thought that was fun for like a one-off kind of thing for that. But
But
yeah,
now we
no, I
have a
agree.
whole mini series that's going to be written
Yeah.
by someone who, not even co-written either. I think it's just written by the actor. It's like there's not even like a co-writer that's a comic writer.
Yeah.
The problem is like I just wish we had. So we have so many of these, just like basically short stories these days, and we don't have like true comic book writers that are going to be in it for issues and issues. Like I wouldn't even mind if I saw a volume for 20 issues of something. Like I don't see Hawkgirl lasting more than 10 issues. I don't see it. Like, who's going to be knocking on the doors from day one going, holy shit, it's freaking Hawkgirl. Do you guys have that first issue? They'll buy like the variant covers or whatever it is. And then I'm telling you, by like issue 2 or 3, there's not going to be anybody interested in it.
But then it goes back to then they're only going to do Batman. They're only going to do Superman. We don't want that
I get
either.
it. But do a character that is, I don't know. I'm not saying that Hawkgirl is not like a horrible character, but do a character that has a little bit more meat to them, like Martian Manhunter or Green Arrow or
Green Arrow's getting a series, which will be nice. But then they tried with Martian Manhunter too. I feel like it's so tricky. And again, I don't think this Kendra book, will do it. But I think sometimes I kind of like when they do these type of books because then there's no baggage. It's just like, all right, I could go in and this could be a completely different story that I've never read before. I'm like, cool, I like this. It's kind of like a was the character we really liked that they created for DC Comics. It was that new age of DC Comics, starts with an S. He was like the Peter Parker of DC Comics.
Oh, Sideways.
Yeah. Sideways is a great example of that, where it's like a newer character. He just kind of was able to do his thing. I feel like sometimes there's so much baggage when it comes to a Green Arrow, comes to a Martian Manhunter. But I also agree, like, is Hawkgirl going to get the sales? I don't know. But also, I think there's books that I don't need to have 20 issues of. Like, if they're going to give me a really solid Hawkgirl 6-issue miniseries, and I'll remember that 6-issue miniseries, then give me that Hawkgirl series. I want more of this than 20 Batmans. Like, I'd definitely rather this scenario.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Batman's the answer. That's definitely not what I'm saying.
But you're saying like a middle ground. Like, who would give us a Martian Manhunter or Green Arrow?
Like, characters that I know that are out there that we just haven't seen in so long that may deserve a series, and I'm not, Hawkgirl, fine, give her a chance, whatever it is. But I want people to be excited for a comic. And I don't know if Hawkgirl is that one to get those people to buy that book. You know what I'm saying? You might buy it and because you want something different, but I don't know if that's the answer,
But
my
we
argument,
do have the green. Oh, go on, Brent.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say my argument for Hawkgirl is, one, people that like us that remember Justice League Unlimited and stuff like that. Two, people that really like Legends of Tomorrow. There's multiple audiences you can pull from, and it's an interesting character that we haven't seen, stories about in a while.
Right.
So I think it could be good. So
right.
And I think I'd be more upset if we didn't have the Green Arrow series coming or a Green Lantern series. They're giving us all those things.
Yeah.
We have Green Arrow, we have Green Lantern. I think you do need a sprinkle of other characters like Steel. I think Steel is a great example of like there is this cult fan base, or Static Shock, which I haven't read the new volume of Static Shock, but I know from my video, people are like, everyone's pick of the week was Static Shock issue 2. So it's just like I'm glad that we're getting you read Static?
Yeah, I did read Static. I think so far, and we were only 2 issues in, but I like this one better than the last run. So
So I'm glad that we're getting those. And again, I'm not going to say that I think Hawkgirl is going to be the answer to it, but I think this version of DC is definitely a better version of DC than we were getting a year ago.
Well,
Where
that
it's
I
just
can
like,
agree with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because at least they're
No question.
trying.
Yeah,
for
At least
sure.
they're trying.
agreed.
And they're giving us and again I'm very 50-50 for DC and Marvel. I love both, and honestly I'm more of a Marvel fan than I am a DC fan, but I will give DC's miniseries, and I talked about this when you were gone, Mike. I'll give them that they at least have a plot and they're trying to do something. I think with a lot of the Marvel miniseries right now, we were talking about it because of new readers and stuff like that, but it's just like I'm so upset of like how they're treating the Spider-Gwens and the Miss Marvels, characters that just have such good meat and so much to say, and they're just saying nothing at this point. And no fault of the creative team. It just seems like that's the direction they're going with them right now.
Just
And
they
so
don't
many-
know what to do with them. That's
Yeah.
the problem. They don't know where to put them or where they fit in this universe at this
But I don't
point.
even think they're trying at this point either. It just seems like literally the pitch is don't do anything with them. Tell us a story that when you're done, they do nothing with the character. Like I feel like that's almost the rule at this point.
Or tell a story that takes place like 10, 15 years ago.
Exactly. Like just tell us a very like almost lost episode type stories. I feel like that's been the prompt
It's-
of a lot of the miniseries. And,
right,
and maybe because
exactly.
it's the success of these nostalgia books, because like Joe Fixit and these other books are doing
Yeah.
well
They
because
are.
they're
I
very
think
lost
I think
episodes.
that's part of it. I think that is part of it. They're trying to see what books are going to do well that take place in the past, like the Extreme X-Men series,
Mhm.
right? The one with Kitty Pryde in it. Are you still
Yep.
reading that, Kat?
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it
That's a
enough.
story that takes place in the past also, you
Yeah.
know? So I think
I w-
they're succeeding in a way, and I guess it's only going to succeed to a point before it starts getting old, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the books that I'm enjoying more, again, it goes back to even Mary Jane and Black Cat. Sure, there's not like a ton of plot going on, but somehow, first of all, there's more plot going on in that book than somehow in Amazing Spider-Man, because you still have the new powers of Mary Jane. You have their relationship developing. I'm not even asking for, because Tevye said, like, why not make Miss Marvel a mutant? I'm not even asking for people to change anything. I'm just asking for just character story. Like, what's going on with her relationship with Bruno? What's going on with her friends? And then Spider-Gwen. Have they been on a tour? Like, what's a new story that you can tell with the friendship or her dad? Like, just anything that's just a new character story. It doesn't have to like blow up the universe or anything.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I was going to say when it comes to the Black Cat, that whole thing's been building since Jed McKay started writing Black Cat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the very first volume, he did it, and it's all led to this. It's just different volumes, you know. And I've really enjoyed the way that's been written. It's not one continuous series, technically, right? I mean,
Right.
he just breaks it up into pieces, you know. So I've enjoyed the way that was written.
That's
It's
a great
just-
example of how they should write it. Go on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just the character work, like you were saying, Kat. It's the character work on Black Cat alone is just so good, and carrying that over into other characters and other books. When writers can do that, it just changes it. Sometimes you don't even miss like a major plot if you have really strong character work.
And again, I think
Yeah,
Mary Jane and Black Cat's a great example. of
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I think
even-
that's what I miss.
that
Right.
almost Mary Jane and Black Cat is the way the independents are doing it right now,
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
they'll tell a story arc and then they take a break and then there's another story arc that comes out.
Yeah.
So I like that. And just the only difference with this is that he's just doing it in volumes, and it's the same writer. So there, at least you get some consistency out of your story, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Mhm.
No, for sure. Tevye asks, why does Miles Morales have an ongoing and not Miss Marvel? My guess is that his sales were just better. I know that Miss Marvel, I really think Miss Marvel dumped in sales or went down in sales after G. Willow Wilson left. Because again, the
Oh, yeah,
volumes were
yeah.
just not as
Well,
strong.
Well, because she's the voice of the character. She's the creator
Yeah.
of the character. So
Yeah.
if anyone is going to write her the best, it's going to be her creator. And now you need a special person to write that character the way that she needs to be written. You know what I'm saying? And I feel
Yeah.
like her culture and her background is a key element to that
Oh,
character,
absolutely.
and it's
Yeah.
going to need a special writer to have her be relevant in the Marvel universe. And I think that's part of the reason why you don't see her in her own ongoing right now.
It also didn't help that a lot of people didn't like the show. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that probably affects things as well. So,
I don't know for sure. It's interesting, but I still hope that, like you said, Mike, just they look out for a creator, kind of like the Punisher. Like you could tell the Punisher was something that Jason Aaron has been crafting this pitch. And it's like, okay, finally going to Marvel. And like, this is my Punisher pitch. And then Marvel's like, yeah, do it. And I wish that we had more of those things. And maybe that is going on at Marvel. But I really do think right now it's more of like, half the stories are just like, okay, we're going to try finding a writer. They look like they'll be a good fit and they delegate the story. Like, would you like to write X-23? Here's what we're kind of looking for. And then the writer kind of fills in what it needs to be written. And they're like, all right, cool. Thanks for the miniseries. But I don't think it's a lot of the reverse where it's like a writer comes to Marvel and says, I actually have an awesome pitch for Marvel for this character. I think they're like filling gaps right now.
It's very possible. I mean, they probably sit there and they go, shit, Spider-Gwen hasn't had a series. We need to
Who can write it, you know?
Miss Marvel, guys, can we come up with something? Hey, let me tell you, instead of different versions of Gwen being good, let's have different versions of Gwen being bad. Oh my God, that's awesome, right? Even though this story is better, though, than the last one, I just think, can you imagine what's going on in that office right now? I mean, it's funny, but I think some of those minis, I agree. They're not the best. And maybe that's why where DC doesn't have enough, I feel like Marvel has too much.
For sure. Yeah. No, there's definitely needs to be a balance. I don't think either of them are perfect, I think is the answer to that one. But let's get into, speaking of things ending, one of the better runs at Marvel, Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, is ending, which is a shame because I don't feel like this volume has been able to find its legs as much as the last volume. I was like, oh, it finally is like starting to find its voice, and now it's just like ending. Oh, yeah, he has Batman. So, like, all right, are you writing Batman or Daredevil? You're like, I'm going to just, and you can tell, like, Batman, like, there's just more going on in that series right now. I'd be curious to see who takes it over. I like the run, but maybe it's also goes back to and I know now we know that Jeremy Adams didn't have the choice of leaving, but it kind of goes back to still what I said about Jeremy Adams, where it's just like, I like that he's ending it here because he's ending it on a big moment. And I think honestly, Daredevil should have ended a volume ago, and maybe they should have had another creator then.
Exactly. Yeah. There was no reason for this to continue. I feel like this is almost like a forced story. And it's finally, like you said, it's finally starting to get its momentum a little bit here. I felt like he should have been like, all right, I'm done. I'm still writing, Stillwater. He's still writing that. And then Batman. So it's just like, he should have just finished it then and been done with it.
I'd be curious to know, like, if he agreed to continue writing Daredevil before or after he got the Batman game. Maybe that would have changed things.
I definitely agree with that. Gore says, glad Chip is leaving Daredevil, not impressed by him at all. What it did do was make me reread Brubaker's Daredevil, which was of course excellent.
I mean, I love the first volume of Daredevil. I thought it was very well written.
I liked it. I still think like it's not close to like Mark Waid's run. I still think Mark Waid's like
Mark Waid's run was fun, but I think Mark Waid's run for a lot of people is a very acquired taste when it comes to
it's not very Daredevil. If you are like a purist of Daredevil. Yeah, me too. Which is like I enjoyed it more.
I really enjoyed it. And because by then I didn't read very much Daredevil until then at that point.
Me too.
That was the only time I read Daredevil, except that one arc that everyone hates, Shadowland. I think that was the first time I read Daredevil, and I was like, I don't know what this is. I just know everyone hated it. I was like, all right, whatever. I don't have any skin in the game for that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into DC Pride. They're making an annual thing now, which I'm pretty happy about. And then the things we have for DC Pride. We have, I want to see, they list all the characters that are going to be there. So Tim Drake and Connor Hawke have a story together. Circuit Breaker, who I believe is and the Flash, that the other Flash, I believe Circuit Breaker is a new character. Midnighter, Apollo, and Alan Scott. It's very interesting that they have like a lot of these like character, like Tim Drake and Connor have a story, not like the romance stories. Ghostmaker, Catman versus Cannon, John Kent and John Constantine, Natasha Irons, and yeah, they're all teaming up with like other queer characters. So like Harley Quinn's teaming up with Crush, and then there's a new Multiversity story by Grant Morrison. I always have fun with these. I like them. I'm glad that they do stuff for Pride. That's mostly what I have to say about it. And again, it seems like they're doing something different with it too, because it's not going to be a romance book. It's going to be like a team up book.
Yeah, that's more interesting, I think, too.
I like the covers to
the covers are gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that.
Tim Drake Robin being in DC Pride makes no sense to me. Well, he is bi.
Yeah, now he is, right? I mean, hey, it is what it is at this point, you know, but at least they do the offerings for you know, they support it, and you know, that's okay. That's absolutely fine. You know, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
You literally don't have to pick it up. Exactly. But they obviously are selling well, because I think, you know, Marvel has been doing it yearly too. I'm sure they'll announce theirs. Like I think it's cool that they do it. Do I think they should do it in June and just like capitalize off of Pride Month? Probably not. Like I kind of wish it was just like, do it in another month. Like just do it because you're like, I actually want just queer stories. But it's like, no, we just kind of want to make money for Pride. Right. Like that's kind of how it feels.
From a business standpoint, it's smart, but I agree with you from a, you know,
from a reader standpoint, standpoint.
Yeah.
I like the characters on that first cover, that gray cover. I like the way they're drawn.
Yeah, no, the art is really good. They always have so gorgeous covers.
I really like the Harley and Ivy one too.
Yeah, Harley Ivy looks nice too. Yeah. And they're
I
all good in their own way, like really.
Yeah, I remember really liking that Alan Scott story in the one, so hopefully I didn't see he's got another story in this one. So
I like the old school one. Yeah, it's 80 thrilling pages in full color. It's like
the one with Supergirl on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like I like all the covers. I think they look really cool. See what else they got going on. I read something on Popverse that I don't want to spoil, because I know that Brant reads Batgirls and I don't want to say anything. So I'm just like, I don't even know what happened in the issue. Yeah, it's about the new issue, and it kind of ties into this. I was like, that's really interesting. I haven't read it, so I don't know what it's about, and what I just read the headline. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I saw one of the covers, like, okay, interesting that person's. Yeah. Me too. I'm excited to read it. And there's people on a cover. If you scroll down, why are they on that cover? You kind of see. You can scroll down to that. That Robin one.
Right. I was wondering that when I was looking at it. So
I'm curious. I don't know anything about the issue. I just saw the headline, and also I kind of forgot about this. Future State teased that with cast and stuff. They did.
I guess I don't remember that.
I didn't either until I skimmed the article. I didn't read all of it. But we'll talk about it next week if something happens. Don't know what it is. Maybe they're overreading it. I'm not really
interesting.
Sure,
weren't we asked that question last week? And we were both like,
we were, and we're both like, I don't think so. And I guess we do think so. Did you get to read the last issue of Batgirls yet?
I did.
Are you gonna read it back to back? Did you like it?
I read it. Yeah, absolutely. It was really good.
It's so crazy how that book has changed so much. Once it finally found its direction, I'm like, whoa, I'm really liking it. Changed the art. It's the same writers, but it's and just to give you some context, Mike, the book is a lot more about them now. It used to be about Barbara and the two Batgirls. It used to be Sandra, Stephanie, and Barbara, and now they've kind of written out Barbara, and it's such a better book. And nothing against Barbara, but it just has more of a point. It's more about their friendship. So I like that so much more.
That's cool.
And it was tying into I forget what that first arc. It was tying into that specific story that was just kind of there. But now that it is more about them and their personal journeys and demons and
their parents
and their parents and all that stuff, it's gotten a whole lot more interesting. Yeah.
But what's really cool about the parent story kind of goes back to like, I hate that like there's so many stories that are like just retelling things and that's it. This book did a really, and I'll just spoil what happened last issue, but this book's done a really good job at like telling new stories with old stories in context. So the last story was about like they switch bodies and they verse each other's parents, and it's Stephanie versus Cluemaster, her dad, and then in the end, Cluemaster like kills Stephanie, and they have to like have the Lazarus pit brings her back, and she's like, okay, will it be the same? Who knows? That's actually how my dad came back. So it's just like a very like father like daughter situation. It's like, wow, they're like adding layers to this story and adding layers to Stephanie, and without doing, and also like kind of with the previous Stephanie story, Stephanie was, she died in a woman in refrigerator's moment. And this moment, like she dies again and almost, I don't want to say honors that moment, but almost reverses that moment. Says, no, this is now her story when she dies. And I thought it was really good.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It was really good.
So moving on to our main topic here, which is the creative team shakeup here. So we're going to talk about Hulk first, because there's only one Marvel creative team shakeup. And Hulk is going to be written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who writes Action Comics, and then Nick Klein, who did Thor. I'm interested in this. I think, I didn't really get to read that much of the Action Comics stuff, but really love Nick Klein's artwork. So I want to see where this goes. I'm glad that it really feels like, again, it feels like a creative team pitched something more than here's a random Hulk story.
Yeah, and everybody was clamoring about that Action Comics run, and I know none of us like really read it, but it
got great reviews.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's Thor art, then I'm all for that. That's going to be beautiful art, and I'm just ready for a Hulk that I can enjoy again because I dropped way off of that last run.
I mean, this one looks like it's going to be a little bit more simplistic based off of the description that it gave.
True.
Right? Like he's got to be battling more monsters and stuff like that. And it's kind of like what you want, right? You want some action in a Hulk book. But yeah, that artwork I think is going to be really well done here.
Yeah,
for sure.
It does mention some Eldritch gods and a good dash of suspense. So hopefully there's a little bit more meat to it. But yeah, it can be fun.
I'm sure he'll put a good twist to it, because like I said, I read a couple issues of the Action Comics, but I just got into it in a point where I didn't understand. But people really enjoyed the story. So, I'm looking forward to it there.
Yeah.
So next up, we have the Flash creative team, and I'm trying to find who the artist. I think it's what's his face,
Dotto Jr.
Yeah, the first.
I'm like, Kat's not going to read this book.
Favorite, right? Yeah.
It's supposed to be this, I guess, horror type of feel when it comes to this version of the Flash, and I think people could be very turned off by this, especially what we're just getting that people love about the Flash right now, and we're kind of flipping the script here when it comes to the character.
And Cy Spurrier is writing it. Who I also have never really been able to get into. He's very British, and obviously that's nothing against British writing, but it's very dense a lot of the times. And everything I've tried, he wrote the Nightcrawlers. He's written a good amount of X-Men recently.
He did the whole Legion.
Yeah, and I've never been a fan. So, and again, the art I'm not a huge fan of because, as you guys know, I don't really love Dotto's darker artwork. So I'm just like, I don't know about this. And I agree, Mike. It's just like spinning off of what people loved was that it felt nostalgic, but also felt new at the same time. I don't know if the Flash needed this hard reboot like this.
Right. It's such a weird, change to make considering how popular this current story is and this current run. And I've never been, I'm just like you, Kat. I've never been a huge fan of Spurrier's stuff. It's just not my thing. It's not for me. So that worries me. Deodato's art I like, but I don't necessarily like it for Flash. Yeah, exactly. So I'm a little worried about this one.
And also, it now is weirder to hear that Jeremy Adams wanted to stay on the book.
Yeah.
And then they went this direction.
That's so odd. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. And it's being switched over at what 800, I think it is.
Mhm.
That's when they're going to change it, and
Yeah.
they're going to do what Marvel does. They're going to start it over with a number 1 and keep the legacy numbering so beneath
Mhm.
it. So that's what they're going to do the same thing with
Yeah.
that. And then we got Wonder Woman who's changing, right? And I guess that's
Mhm.
the next thing we were going to talk about.
That is what an interesting change that is. So Tom King is writing Wonder Woman, and I want to see who the artist is. Tom King and Daniel
Thank you. Yeah.
Sempere, who did a
Yeah.
lot of like Injustice. Is very similar to the artist that's on Nightwing. Bruno Rodolfo's very similar art style. So that's
Oh,
what you're
okay.
looking. Yeah, so it's
Gotcha.
gonna be great art.
Okay.
Which I'm not surprised by because Tom King does usually work with great artists.
Yeah.
I think for DC, this is a great move in the regard of Supergirl, right? I did not like the Supergirl run, but it's obviously selling out because there's a movie coming out and people
Yeah.
do like that run, especially people that aren't as like ingrained in the past of Supergirl. A lot of people like who never read Supergirl before really like the run, which granted, I'm glad that you found Supergirl in a way. So this is interesting. I really have never seen Tom King write anything other than the one story he continues to write. So curious to see how this goes, but I think it's just gonna be a PTSD story. And again, that's nothing against his storytelling. I'm just kind of I really have never read a story that's the opposite of that.
Here's a good one. Infamous Mike Manhattan says Tom King's limited series: Supergirl, Gotham, Hard Target, Omega Man, Adam Strange, Batman, and Catwoman, Superman, Rorschach have been terrific. However, not sure if he's ready to come back to an ongoing. So what I guess he's saying is that he can write pretty good miniseries, but when it comes to ongoing, that's when it might be an issue because we had an issue. We all had an issue with Batman. Obviously,
Yeah.
most people on this planet had an issue with Batman, and they also had the I always forget the name of it, the Heroes in Crisis story too, of what they did there with Wally.
It's hard. I think for us, I'll speak for myself, with Tom King, like Batman aside, there's like Vision, I still think is the best thing that he's written.
That was like one of his first things he did.
Right.
I really liked his Mr. Miracle. That
which I never
my
read.
favorite.
Yeah, but I never read that one. So, but everything else that he's read, I've fallen off of eventually, including the Adam Strange book, which I thought started strong for me, and then it didn't hold for me. So I worry about it. I especially with an ongoing, and if it's a long-term story and it's not already set that it's going to be this amount of issues.
It seems like it is. I have not read anything from Tom King since Batman. So I haven't read anything from him.
Yeah.
And
oh wow, so there you go.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I'm gonna give it a try. I'll definitely
try it.
But again, it seems like it's gonna be like this like murder thing or trial or whatever it is. It's kind of like almost like a Civil War story. That's what it reminds me of when I read about it. And it's just like, I don't know, man. So you're gonna get the whole planet that she's been defending all this time, and now people are gonna be like, "Oh, we hate Wonder Woman." I don't know if I can get behind that. I'm not sure.
I also don't love how he writes female characters. I feel like I don't know. I just don't tend to like the way because they all feel the same to me, man. Like if you read, I know you didn't read Mr. Miracle, but like Big Barda is just like it's always about like the trauma of this guy and the woman's just like here. You're a good guy. And that's kind of like the role. And then again, for like Superwoman, I feel like that Supergirl just took on the role of what the male lead usually would be in his books. Again, but some people are saying like Gotham was really good and didn't have to do with that. And Superman was good. So maybe this will be different. But I think Murder Trials is going to be it's going to be very similar style to what he's written in the past.
I feel like in what I did read of Adam Strange that the female characters were not like that. I think they were a little bit more individualistic, a little stronger. So hopefully he's getting away from that. But I also have not loved like the direction that Wonder Woman's been in for the past few years. So it seems like it's still heading in the same trajectory, and I'm just not loving that. So
no skin off our bones.
Yeah.
This might be the biggest writer the title has had in quite a while too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who the last big writer was for Wonder Woman.
Maybe Rucka,
Yeah, probably Rucka was the last big one.
right?
I would say that was a pretty big move because this is huge. Like, I mean, Tom again, especially after Tom King's not deal with Warner Brothers, but like his whole run being the focus of this new Superwoman movie. He's kind of on top of the world right now. I actually saw an earlier comment about Donny Cates. Hold on, let me see if I could pull it up.
Yeah.
You know, Tevye makes a good point though. He goes, Tom King maybe needs to do focus on a miniseries. So this is kind of going like back to like the Black Cat thing. Wouldn't it be cool if like Tom King did a miniseries on Wonder Woman where it was 4 or 5 issues, then stopped and then did another story arc and then came back? You know what I'm saying? Something like in that aspect.
I agree. I just don't think it sells the book as much if he's on a miniseries.
Yes, I agree. I'm so curious though what Wonder Woman sales are anyway these days. You know, so I don't even know, but it's so interesting to me. Like, I don't know how this book is going to sell.
I have 2 comments here. Actually, I want to pull this one up first. Send Tom King back into Indie Comics. I mean, I think he's sticking with DC for a little while. But yeah, the other comment I want to mention was Gore, who said Donny Cates' star seems to be fading. It seems just like yesterday that anything he wrote was a bestseller.
He's not
I
even
feel like
writing
anything he writes, that's true. Like he hasn't have anything out right now. But I feel like still, if you announced a Donny Cates book, people would buy it. I mean, look at Vanish. People are buying that book.
Vanish comes out next week.
Yeah.
So we get the newest issue of that. But
what was the last thing he wrote?
What
was the last thing he wrote that wasn't Vanish?
Oh, it was Thor
and Hulk.
And that's been a couple of months now.
Yeah, last year.
And he has nothing else announced right now from Marvel. Oh no, we're waiting. He has a secret project that's
right.
He does have something secret in the works, but he's taking personal time off because of issues that he has been having. So that's why you're not seeing anything really come out of him. But doesn't mean that he's like not a good writer or anything like that.
Yeah.
If you read Vanish, or if you haven't read Vanish, I definitely
really
go read that book. It is a solid read.
Yeah,
or even just Crossover was great too. Sorry, Brett, what are you gonna say?
No, I was just agreeing that I don't think his star is faded at all. It's just the reasons Mike mentioned.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. And I mean, even no matter what you think of Tom King too, like even if you don't love his writing, I think he's a writer because he's going to be on Wonder Woman. And at least that first issue is going to do really well. So there are some powerful names.
It shows just because some of us, including us, are not enjoying his work, that obviously it's still selling. So obviously
people like it. Yeah. Just not our thing, and that's okay.
Isn't he writing the Black Label books for Batman?
Yeah, he's writing some Gotham book.
Yeah.
But I thought he was doing like the like those villain books.
He did one of them. So like there's different creative teams for all of them. So I think he wrote like the Riddler one. Yeah. I think he wrote, and then there's always a different writer for those stories.
Okay. I thought he wrote all of those. I didn't know it was somebody different each time.
Yeah, he's writing one of them. But that's all the news. So we're gonna go into most anticipated now. So Brant, passing the baton.
Yeah, let's do it. So let me get over that screen. I wasn't prepared. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Let's go through our list because our lists are actually quite different this week. So I'll list mine first. Number 3 is Hellcat, number 1. Number 2 is Nocterra, number 12, which is finally back. And number 1 is No One, number 1. So what are yours, Kat?
Number 3 is No One, issue 1. Number 2 is Hellcat, issue 1. Number 1 is Batgirls, issue 16. It's gonna be the first one I read tomorrow.
All right, and Mike?
Mine's actually Go Goblin issue 5, which I think is the last issue.
I think so.
Yeah. And then we have The Last Barbarians issue 2, and then Nemesis issue 3.
All right. So real quick with Nocterra, I'm excited because it's finally back. It's not one of the one shots that we've been getting. It's actually a series. It's a new chapter. Emery is leading the Sundogs now. So I'm assuming a little bit of time has passed. So it's going to be interesting to see it.
That's the brother, right?
Yeah. So because they think she's dead, right now she's like Blacktop Bill. So we'll see where that goes.
That's gonna be cool.
Yeah. So Gold Goblin, last issue.
Yeah,
And I don't remember what happened last issue.
I think I had to do with like the Queen Goblin
Oh,
still
yeah,
haunting
yeah.
him. Yeah,
Right.
I'm interested to see
This
like
is-
how it ends in the regard of is it really going to tie into anything, or is it just going to be
Right.
an end to this?
Like she was masquerading as that other doctor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then I'm curious how that whole thing will wrap up, and then like what does it do for Norman? What does it do
Yeah.
for Queen Goblin? Like there's a lot of I don't know, things that need to be a lot of questions that need to be answered. And
Yeah.
hopefully we will see more of this Queen Goblin character towards the end and they don't like kill her off. So I don't
Right.
know. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's been a great series so far.
Yeah. So with Hellcat, I'm just a little concerned because I'm not totally in love with the art.
Right.
So I'm a little concerned about that, but hopefully it'll be good. I love Hellcat. I love Patsy.
Who's the
Me too.
interior?
Who is the interior artist?
It's
Let's see.
Alex Linz, I think is his name. I don't know what else he's done. or they've
Let's
done.
see. So Alex Linz has not really done any. Monarch, New Mutants
New Mutants.
hasn't really done much.
That gives me pause.
Wait,
'Cause I
is that the
usually don't
New
like their art.
Mutants where they like? Do you have any images of it, Brian?
I'm trying to find some.
It was New
Is it
Mutants issues 30. He seems like he's a fill-in artist.
Okay.
Oh,
So maybe they're just trying to mount on something. Let me look at. Let's see if there's any art that we can find. Alex Lynn.
There is a preview of Hellcat somewhere. I
Yeah,
saw
let's see
earlier
that.
today.
Let's see that. No, I'm interested because obviously it's Christopher Cantwell. He wrote Hellcat
Right.
well in Iron Man, so I
Yeah.
want to, and he obviously really loves the character. So I'm just curious to see her own voice because she was definitely one of the better parts of Iron Man.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm pulling up the preview now.
But now I'm nervous about this art
Let's see.
and how dark it will be. I'm curious to see what that's going to be about.
Get over. See if I can zoom in. Nope, it's not gonna let me zoom in.
I can see it well enough. Oh no!
Now I get
Skip
an
that ad.
Sorry.
Skip
Trying.
the ad.
Sorry about this, everyone.
Stupid ad.
It's okay.
Let's see if I can
We have
open
that
this thing. There we
PlayStation.
go. There we go.
Oh, I still
you're
see
not
the
on
ad.
this. I'm sorry. I switched it to a different screen. Let me stop the screen and share a different screen.
Let's see it. Now I'm excited. So for the first page, doesn't look too bad.
There we go. Now it's way zoomed in. But
Oh yeah. We'll see if it fits. I think if it's like a really gritty book, I could kind of see this art.
it's supposed to be
Yeah.
like a horror book in
Yeah.
a way, right? Like
Yeah.
a
It has
murder
a lot
book
to
or
do with
something like
Her
that.
hell.
So I can see it fitting that color scheme that it's going for. There was a nice cover from Ryan Stegman, like cover art,
Oh, that's
um,
cool.
where it has like Patsy on a top of a building, and oh man, it looks gorgeous. It was so gorgeous. So it's a 1 in 25. So I don't know, if it will be available at my shop, but I'm hopeful I can get one.
I also think this has a good potential to actually have a plot. You know, what I was just saying about some of the miniseries we have, because Christopher Cantwell wrote Hellcat for such a long time, he's probably just going to continue some of the beats that were in that previous series.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually like the art.
That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like the art.
Looks intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
That's
think
pretty.
this is the right way of getting a character on a book, right?
Yeah.
So if you read Iron Man, which, I don't know if that many people did, but his attempt was to get Patsy Walker in a book so people could read and know who she is. And then we introduce her own book. So I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And yeah, this seeing this page made changes my opinion a little bit.
Mhm.
So yeah, hopefully it's really good, and we're raving about it next week.
All our number one picks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. So Last Barbarians, I know you're the only one that read it. I think, Mike, you didn't read it, right, Kat? I know I didn't
No.
read it. So you enjoyed that issue?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the issue. I'm looking forward to issue 2. Again, I love the character's voice in the book. She
Mhm.
talks to the readers. She breaks the fourth wall. And she's a character. Again, it reminds me a lot of how Jennifer Walters was written back in the original days of She-Hulk. You know, she kicks ass, takes names, but, you know, she talks to the audience as well. Looking forward to this mission that she's going on, or this job that she wound up getting. She has to protect her brother as well. So I'm looking forward to the next issue of this.
Nice. And then we have No One, #1, the next Massive Verse book, which I was surprised it wasn't on your list, Mike. But I'm always excited for a new Massive Verse book personally, and they're doing a lot of hype around this book. So.
Yeah, the podcast situation I think is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll listen to the podcast, but I'm interested in the book.
Yeah.
At least one of them, right? I like the noir side of things. That looks cool. And it's written by Kyle Higgins. So if you like Radiant Black, you know, it's not, you'll probably like this tone.
I think what this is, I feel like I didn't really discover this book until I was putting my list together. And then I was like, oh,
realize
there's
it
No
was what
One
it
book
was.
coming out. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to check this out. So, but I don't really know all that much about it to where it got me super excited.
Okay. Yeah, it's another, you know, it's tied to the Radiant Black universe and all that stuff. And then we got Patton Oswalt doing the podcast and all that stuff. So that's
just another hero, basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's written again by Kyle Higgins. It's like his second book now.
Gotcha.
And Brian Buccellato actually too is writing it. The guy did a chicken book. Chicken dough. There you go.
Yeah.
And obviously he's done other stuff too, but like recently, that's what he's done.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, all right, and then Batgirls, of course, which we talked about. But
I'm anticipating it more now after reading this article. I was just anticipating because I liked last issue.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, man, this who knows what's gonna happen next? I'm excited for this.
For sure. Yeah, which I didn't know about before the show or my list. So, I'm like I said, it's probably going to be the first book I read now too. So, and then finally, Nemesis Reloaded, issue #3. Really enjoying that book. So,
yep, looking forward to it. I don't know what's going to happen with the mayor or that cop that he threw out of the freaking helicopter in the last issue. You know, but you can expect some gruesome stuff that, like, Nemesis will always deliver. It's a book that's
absolutely.
What I like about it, it's very unpredictable,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think that's what makes it so unique. And that Jorge Jimenez artwork, freaking primo, man, so good,
so beautiful, so gloriously, gruesomely beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And that's it. That's all our most anticipated.
Sweet. So that means that's the end of our show. So that's it, guys. Real quick though, like I said, or like we said earlier, we got a big announcement next week that's attached to this show. Hopefully you guys will stay tuned for that next week. And of course, this is the time where we're going to say goodbye. We appreciate you stopping by, hanging out with us, talking about some comics, some comic book news. Hopefully we'll have some big news next week as well, besides our announcement. And of course, guys, on your way out, don't forget to hit that like button. So it does help the show, of course. And subscribe to the channel, whether it's Comic Book Weekly or Comic Book Corner 2.0. And of course, don't forget to hit that bell so you don't miss any notifications from us. And of course, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So again, guys, happy new comic book day officially now, because it is 12 o'clock. And we'll see you all next week. Have a good night and sleep well.